19. Brothers, sisters, friends, assalamu alaikum. If you could see the view that I can see, you are fantastic, and I salute each and every one of you, all thousands and thousands of you here today. As you know, I'm a journalist and words are my trade, but no words could adequately describe the frustration and anger I felt when the horrific events of July 7 began to unfold. Therefore, I suppose it was fitting that we marked the bloody deaths of the London bombing victims with silence, 2 minutes silence. And I bet many of you in here joined in, just as you probably did for the victims of 9/11, for the victims of Bali, Kenya and Madrid. But what about the deafening silence over the hundreds of thousands of dead across the Muslim world? I am talking about the slaughter of our brothers and sisters in Iraq, Afghanistan, Palestine, Kashmir, Chechnya, Uzbekistan, Thailand, Indonesia, Gujarat. I could go on. And what about our silence over the Guantanamo Bay detainees, where 500 more of our brothers are still languishing? And of course there are no words for the ghost detainees. Thousands of our brothers are being held in torture facilities around the globe at the behest and request of the United States. And I don't even want to go into the situation in Morocco, where thousands more of our brothers are being tortured in the prisons there on a daily basis. English philosopher Edmund Burke once said, "All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Well, I think the time has come when we must all take a long, hard look in the mirror today. We need to examine our consciences, and we need to ask, is the Ummah doing enough? The day I said La ilaha illallah was the day I joined the greatest family on earth, and I was told that when one of us is in pain, we should all feel that pain. Well, we should be crying out in agony and anger now, because the Ummah isn't bleeding, it's hemorrhaging. I wonder how many of you here today have heard the pitiful screams of our brothers in Guantanamo Bay, or even closer to home in Belmarsh. Have any of you answered their cries for help? How many of you have sat in Zionist coffee bars drinking cans of pop which profit the vile state of Israel? How many of you have bought clothes from Zionist stores that send their donations to prop up that state? A state which has the 4th largest army in the world, a state which uses its army to fire at women and children. When you buy a can of Coca-Cola, you may as well hand bullets to the Israeli army to put in the head of a Palestinian child.
Allahu Akbar!
Some of you might feel angry when I say that, but deep down you know I'm telling the truth. I have already been called a traitor for my views. There is a great deal of misunderstanding about Islam, but the misunderstanding also comes from within. Remember, being silent is not an option. There is courage in numbers, as you've shown today, but there is strength in our hearts when we put our faith in Allah. The great only seem great when they keep us on our knees, and the time has come to stand up and unite. And today is a landmark day for Muslims living in Britain. And if fear keeps you on your knees, then you're just as much a prisoner as the brothers in Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, Bagram, Diego Garcia, Belmarsh. You are as locked up as Barbara Ahmed. In fact, as the Barbara Ahmed campaigners say, we are all Barbara Ahmed. And if you have that fear still in your heart, I will make dua for you, because eternity is a long time to dwell on the fear that kept you a slave of the imperialistic thugs in this life. Our enemies, of which there are many, are all around us. When I embraced Islam, I embraced a peace-loving faith with a social justice beyond comparison. What I did not embrace was a selfish, cowardly, I'm all right Jack religion. Nor do I embrace one which tells me to keep my head down and ignore the pain and injustice in this world, especially the Muslim world. Why is it that the slightest mention of a connection between invasions of Muslim lands and terrorist strikes brings accusations of treachery and unpatriotic behaviour? George Bush said you were either with me or with the terrorists. Well, how many of you here today want to stand shoulder to shoulder with the President of the United States? As the crocodile tears trickle down the faces of the G8 leaders, the world's biggest war criminals, we're already planning on how to capitalise on July 7. For that is how 9/11 and all the other bombings were regarded. July 7 is still hard to explain, other than a group of people brought terror to our streets in London. What they did was not in the name of Islam, nor was it in my name. As I say, it's difficult to explain, but the illegal war in Iraq is equally difficult to explain, and that was certainly not done in my name. Was it done in yours?
No!
I can't hear you!
No!
Yet Bush and Blair still to this day insist that the war in Iraq was done in the name of freedom and to help spread civilization and democracy. The only difference between the indiscriminate bombings in London and the indiscriminate bombings in Iraq are the numbers of dead. Those ripped apart by terrorist bombs in London exceed 50, but those liberated to death by coalition bombs in Iraq numbers anything up to 500,000. Muslims have been slaughtered in the name of freedom and democracy, and in the West, Muslims are paying the price by having our freedoms and liberties carpet bombed on a daily basis. We are being subjected to stop and search by police forces riddled with institutionalized racism and Islamophobia. Some purely political groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir face being banned in Britain. Our bookshops could be closed down and our reading material seized by Tony Blair's government. Blair sees censorship as a way of controlling us all, and we have to stop this. It's not just books, it's videos. It's things that we hear, things that we read. Universities are going to be stifled under these draconian censorship laws. We cannot allow this censorship to happen in this country where freedom of speech used to be held so dear. I'm giving you warning now, Mr. Blair. Where injustice is the law, resistance is my duty. If you really want a war with Islam, Mr. Blair, then bring it on! I would also like to finally say, this march has been terrific. We've had marches before to try and stop the war in Iraq. That didn't work. But I've got another warning for Tony Blair. Try and drag this country into another illegal war. We won't march, we will riot!